I still will tell you certain things, whether you choose to do it or not.
Sure.
I still will give you my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm still like 85% parent,
Sure.
you know, because no matter whether they want to hear it or not, I still feel like as a mom, I need to still teach them because their brains are not fully developed.
Right.
You know, I have a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and a 24-year-old, all about ready to turn to the next. I'm always going to be, I'm a mom. I think moms' relationships with their children are different than dads. Like, their dad doesn't give them as much maybe advice in personal areas. So, and my boys will say, Mom, I'm a grown-ass man, but I'm like, and I birthed you, and I'm still your mom. So I have a great relationship with all my children, and they know it's because I love them that I give them advice. And I tell them, you can choose to take it or choose not to, but I'll always give it.
So in high school, were they hiding the typical things like relationships, drinking, things?
Oh yeah, all of the above. Yeah, relationships, because I didn't want them to fall into temptation, you know, and do things that they can't take back.
Right.
I still taught them, you know, protection. You know, I taught them to wait.
And they've made it all
Yeah,
this time.
they
so
did.
They made it.
I talked to my kids before they reached puberty.
Yeah.
Because I read in Dr. James Dobson's book that teach them before they're like, ew, you're gross. So it's an easy talk for me because I talk to them about things like masturbation and not to be shameful of it and how you're going to feel. And I tell them everything. And it was an uncomfortable conversation even back then when they were younger, but I wanted to reach them before they reached puberty and were confused by their feelings or is this normal or any of that.
Or found out from their friends.
Yeah, or found out from the wrong people. You know, same with drinking, you know, and I always let my kids, if they were old enough, have a little drink at home because I'd rather them be at home than out.
Right.
Taught them about drinking and driving and sex and all of that stuff, all of the above. I taught them, and they still did it, but you know,
at least they knew.
Right? Yeah.
We'll look back and know if our parents tried to tell us.
They all did, and they all came home. Some of them hid it till they were older, till they left the house. And some of my kids would tell me, Mom, I did this. Towards the end, it's just, I felt like towards the end, it's all about surviving. So it's really picking your battles, like which battles are worth fighting for. So those ones I fought for. Like if they were ones that I felt like they were worth really fighting for and putting my kids on restriction for or whatever, I did it. Anything else, I just let go because it wasn't worth it. And I wanted to keep those relationships with my kids. You know, so that's much more important, keeping those relationships rather than hindering them because you want to be right or whatever. And like having that relationship with my children it was so much more important. So now today as adults, we have amazing relationships. My kids call me almost every day or text me almost every day. We see them every week. When they go on trips, when they go on trips, they always ask us to come with them. It's like we're like their buds that they ask to go on trips with and stuff. So it's really awesome. Cool. I love it, and I'm really. It's funny because my husband will say, "Oh, I'm so tired." I'm like, Jimmy, but what kids want to hang out with their?
Yes.
What kids want to hang out with their?
Where?
With their parents. It's so awesome, you know. There's not a lot of kids who want to hang out with their parents.
Like, how do you know you're strong with them, even as they're teenagers?
Oh, as teenage years? Oh, I always, I remember, if any of my kids were mad at me, I would say, you could be mad at you, but I still love you. like things like that. When they're
Right.
slamming things in their
Okay,
room and
sure.
stuff like that, I'll be like, go in your room, get out your aggression, and when you feel calm, you can come back out. But know that I still love you. So always reinforcing that I love them, that I cared about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that was the biggest thing.
Despite
was just
the slamming doors.
yeah, I would let them,
Mm-hmm.
especially my youngest. I would just let him go in his room and just make all the ruckus he wanted, and then he'd come out and he'd tell me he was sorry.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Hug.
right.
We have a rule that if one of us says hug, we never turn the other away. We give each other a hug no matter what.
Yeah, I love that. No, that's how it is with us too. I only had one child that was really stubborn in that area that had a hard time saying sorry, but I was still able to keep those doors open, the communication doors open.
Drugs, alcohol, because my dad died from a heroin overdose when I was 14. So that's sort of like my studies. A lot of times I find myself, I never tried anything other than weed. I don't know what it feels like or anything like that. But I'm always curious people's opinions on drugs. Did you ever have any desire to try them, or what kept you away? And how did you keep your kids away, or how did you talk to them about drugs?
Yeah. I never had the desire to do drugs. I was definitely pressured.
Really?
Oh yeah, a lot of pressure to do drugs. And so I was unfortunately more of a follower than a leader growing up. So I did experiment.
Did you?
Okay. Yeah. But not with much. Just marijuana and the sticker that they put on there.
Like the acid? Or
yeah, acid.
Okay.
Acid. But I don't remember feeling anything from it. And alcohol. But I really, it's more like peer pressure. I never had like the desire. It was never in me.
Try to be very honest with her too about special mushrooms, alcohol, things that. One time we were at Dairy Queen and this lady was coked out of her mind, and the lady in the window says to Ambria, "That's why you don't do drugs." And I took it a little further and I said, "This is why you get your inner healing and your pain resolved, so that you don't turn to substances."
Right.
And
exactly. Yeah. And my kids never really did either. Both my boys really, they wanted to do law enforcement, even though they had different paths. And my daughter too, none of them really had the desire. They all experimented, except for Joel. They experimented with weed and alcohol, and they also like alcohol today, but they haven't overdone it either. More socially than anything, social drinking. But so I think we all need to be careful because you never know who it's going to fall on. But I don't have that nature in me. Anyone can get it, you know. And I think weed is better today for medicine purposes. It's more natural than taking some of the other things. I take anxiety medicine, and I'm so addicted to it, I can't get off of it. But because I'm already on anxiety medicine, I tried marijuana for medical purposes, but it doesn't work. So, because my brain waves, it gives me anxiety. So I've tried indica and all these things, but they don't work for me. So, but I wish I started there rather than on benzos, because I'm on benzodiazepam, and it's very addictive.
I've asked you this before and you told me, so let me see if you stick to this answer. This is a question about marriage and getting married at a certain age.
So I might have different viewpoints today.
And I said, I asked, what was your recommended age minimum before you really consider getting married? Since we're older and we can tell the younger ones our opinion, just our opinion.
Okay. Well, so now that my kids are older, I don't know what I said back in the day, but I definitely feel like being on the older side is more important because there is so much divorce. And I feel like boys' brains don't really fully develop till they're about 27. Okay. Girls develop a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. So, and I think getting established in your life is really good and healthy, I think, for a young adult before they go into marriage. And really knowing what they want. And I feel like you'll make a better decision if you're older. So honestly, I lean towards like 26, 27.
That was your same answer.
It was? Oh my gosh. 27. Wow. Just because I just feel like it's better to have that brain that is fully developed. Yes. Give yourself time to get established with your career, with your life, with yourself. See what you really want, date, but I feel like maybe not marriage quite yet. Or kids, no. And I just feel like less is better. It's better just to enjoy.
School.
Right.
Live for yourself.
Right.
That is okay. That is good. You need to get some healing. Live in some apartments, have some roommates, some bad jobs. You don't want to be dragging a kid along with you.
Oh my gosh. And I was 19. I truly wish I never got to live and experience what life really was before marriage. I never got to live on my own by myself or, struggle by myself or have some bad relationships, I really wish I got to experience life before marriage. I mean, it all worked out, so you just never know.
Yeah. So 27, I love that. I so agree. And like for women, if you think about like when you get to 37, your child's only 10 instead of like a teenager thinking, what are you doing with your life, Mom? Yeah. They're only like this cute little kid still.
And then I feel like I almost wish I was a little bit older when I had kids. I had Jacob when I was 24, but I wish I was even a little bit older because I think I would have made better decisions even with my children, maybe not as many mistakes,
Mistakes, right?
Yeah, so I was young.
You're learning stuff yourself.
I really, if I could do it all over again, I would have been older to marry and waited a little bit longer for kids and enjoyed traveling and doing things, Instead, now I'm older trying to do those things, but now I have health issues. So those things are holding me back. So now I can't live the youthful life that I could have if I did that. Yeah, you're committed for life after that.
Like one way or another. Whether you walk out on the kid or you're there, you're committed.
Right. I'll never forget, it was my sister Shanna that actually said this, but she didn't realize how selfish she was until she had children.
For sure.
Because she lived so many years. But it was good because she got to experience life, before she settled down with children. So it definitely, we did things backwards, Let me see, text him. But yeah, so that's that.
Okay, and so my last question, which is I always like to ask people if they've ever had a near-death experience or paranormal experience, activity, that type of thing.
Well, I was 16. So before 16, I was very rebellious and very defiant and played with things like Ouija boards and watched satanic movies and things like that. Wow. I did a lot of things. I was a Christian. I knew I was. I loved God, but I tested the waters, and I don't know why, but I did. And I just had that spirit of rebelliousness.
90s kid though, right? Like this is the 90s that you're teenager? Or
80s.
More 80s. Okay.
Yeah. So I I did not so great things. So my dad said, do you want to read this book about angels, your guardian angel? We all have a guardian angel. And I was like, we do? Yeah, I want to read this book. So I read this book about guardian angels, and that we all have one. And I wish I had the book today. I do not. I remember it was pink, and I don't have the book, or it might be in like a keepsake box. But it was about guardian angels, and I read the whole entire book. And we went on this rafting trip. I think I may have brought the book up or just finished reading it. I either just finished it or finished reading it as we were driving up there. But then we went on a whitewater rafting trip, and it was just me, my sisters, my dad, the guide, like a guide and another person. And it's a pretty fast flowing river. We did like rapid, I think level 3 and 4. So here's my dad taking us on like level 3 and 4 rapids. And I remember telling my sisters, just hold on, don't worry about it. I was very protective. I guess we got ourselves in a bad situation. And we hit a really hard rapid, and it bumped me. I think it bumped me, my dad. No, is it me? Bumped like 3 of us off. And 3 or 4 of us off the raft. I think there was about maybe 8 to 9 of us on the raft, and it bumped 3 of us off. So they did not know I got bumped off. They picked up the other 2. So when you get thrown off a raft, they tell you just to kind of float on your back and just kind of go down with the current. Well, when I got thrown off the raft, I went and got stuck underneath the raft. So my life vest was pressing up against underneath the raft, and for some reason I couldn't get out. Like the current, with the current and the rapids, I was pressed up, could not get out. So I was under there, it felt like for eternity. And I could hear everyone talking. It was all mumbled and stuff like that, but I could hear people talking and stuff, and they did not know I was off the raft until I came out of the water. But they rescued the other 2 people, so this is how long I'm under there. And when I'm under there, the whole time, I'm just like, my first thought was like, I can't believe I'm going to die. This is crazy. I'm going to die. This is it. And like my life flashed before my eyes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't had children. I haven't been married. You know, God, forgive me. I said, God, please forgive me. Please forgive me for all my sins. I'm so sorry for everything I've done. Please forgive me. And then all these thoughts, Jimmy, you know, my sisters, like my family, and then I'd go back to, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to die. This is it. And then I was holding my breath for a really long time. And all of a sudden, I felt like I couldn't hold my breath any longer. I had held it way too long, and I was getting kind of lightheaded. And I thought, I'm going to pray to my guardian angel. And so I started praying to my guardian angel, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but I prayed something, I'm sure, to the effect that, will you please save me? Will you please come help me? Will you please help me? And literally right after I prayed that, it felt like someone took me and yanked me out of the water. It wasn't like, pop, I'm out of the water. It was like someone took me, and as I was rising up above the water, I could see the light. So it was all dark underneath. I couldn't believe I didn't hit rocks, because they said that as you're going down rapids, you can hit rocks and things like that. I hit no rocks. And that's when I believe my guardian angel just pulled me out from under the water with the most forceful pull and brought me out above. And that's when everyone else realized I was out of the raft. They're like, you were out of the raft? And I was just crying. But I wasn't crying because I was scared. I was crying because God was real. God is real. I do have a guardian angel. God is real. There is God. And after that day, it totally it changed. Even though I made mistakes, even still as a teen, it changed my outlook. I became a better teen. I wasn't as defiant. I stopped watching demonic movies and stopped playing with Ouija boards and things like that, and which are real. You don't mess with Ouija boards at all.
It's a portal. It's an invitation.
Yeah, it is bad, bad. Or demonic movies. Satan has visited me a couple times because of me doing those things.
Wow.
Scary stuff.
Wow.
Scary. People who think that there's not Satan, there is. And if there is a God, there's Satan. There's good, there's bad. But anyways, that was my turning point in my life, was that moment.
And religious-wise, did you feel different, like closer to God, or did you question everything for a while? Or?
No, I felt closer to God for it. Because I was far from God before it. So even though I believed in God, I loved God, I still was very defiant and not close to God. I didn't have that personal relationship.
Matthew 5, my lips, you're on my lips, but your heart is far from me.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it was. So that was my turning point as a young child. And I've had other moments since then that have shown me God's real. I've had other moments too. But that was, I would say, a pivotal time in my life. It was definitely that.
Especially for a 16-year-old.
Yeah. It was life altering, life changing. It opened my eyes, yeah.